All right. Hi, everybody. How are we feeling? Good. A round of applause for the day, right? Yeah. Been good. Been good. Everybody's having a good time. Well, I'm very excited to welcome our wonderful guests and unfortunately my colleague, Allie. No, I just wanted to say very quickly, thank you all so much for sticking around. I know a lot of people are very busy. You guys are very important people to us. Very quickly, I think you guys know all of these individuals. Deb Ruffins, Crossley Sanford, Shade Vaughn, again, Allie Bone. They're going to talk about sales and the success that comes with being hardworking and diligent. So without further ado, Allie Bone, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks everybody. We are in the final two sessions of the day. I'm really excited about this. I must say, this is one that I have been buzzing about. These are rock star individuals here, and it's going to be a really exciting conversation. You are rock stars, no pressure. You are, each of you in your own individual ways. In terms of what we're going to do today is just kind of really get into that conversation around sales and revenue and how you can maximize it within your firm. And I know that with these three individuals, sadly we lost Catherine's in, but all I need to do is set that fuse and they're going to be off, and it's going to be a lovely little discussion. But before getting into anything, I wanted to actually just share with you, not my face and not their faces, but a couple of definitions. So very kindly, each of the panelists took a moment to write down what their definition of sales within professional services was. I just wanted everyone to have a moment to have a little read of that and see what you feel you may be aligned to most. But interestingly, in my opinion, I think there's a very sort of common thread throughout that we're going to get into in a second. So for those of you who might have worked out, each of them have done that. Some people might recognize Deb's because it's obviously a very famous saying of hers, and then Crossley and Shade have both given one there. But anyway, getting into it all. So when we were preparing for this panel, one of the big points that everybody was very much in agreement with was that good sales was showing that your firm understands the client problem and that it's all about helping to solve that. So can we please have your thoughts on that and what roles sales plays within your environments?
I guess, am I going first?
Whoever wants to open up.
I'll open up. That doesn't surprise anybody. And it's interesting. I start with marketing and the definition of sales because my view is that, like Jade says, everything is selling. But particularly for marketers, we often forget that our job is selling. And I remember speaking at a conference when I first came over into the industry about 12 years ago, a New York LMA session for people who just came over. And my main thing was, why aren't we talking about sales? I am so glad that every session today touched on sales. So what an incredible evolution in the legal marketing space. I have an actual sales team, quota carrying, territory assigned, out there, uncovering opportunities, cultivating relationships, teaching the lawyers how to actually sell. It's not like, here's a proposal. You said this earlier, a 50-page proposal, and then can I have the contract, please? No, it's a much more iterative process. So they run that process for me.
Thank you. And Shade, interestingly, I know when we were talking before this, you don't necessarily have a sales panel, or you are the sales panel, a sales team within Aiken. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think in the course of this 42 minutes, I'm gonna go on this journey, but by saying I stepped into a firm, and I've only been in the world of legal marketing for about 3 years, and I was very conscious about not wanting to bring in a bunch of new people on the business development side. I want us together to go on this journey. And I would say that as a firm, we're very traditional in the way that the business development team supports the partners. We don't, by and large, participate in meetings. The feedback that we get of how meetings went comes from the partners themselves, which, as everybody in this room understands, it's hard to really get a good understanding of what clients need to hear and what's resonating and what's not. And so what I expect to be able to say, a year from now is that our entire team sells, in the same philosophy that Deb is thinking about. I mean, I would like our team to be measured and evaluated by whether we actually created demand, both at a firm-wide level, but also at a practice level.
Yeah, sure. And are you bringing in at the moment various things that you learned from your time in consulting? Because for those of you who aren't aware, Crossley is actually at Ancura, which is a consultancy as well. So I imagine both of you, and in fact, Deb spent time at KPMG as well. So each of you, sorry, each of you will be bringing in your own aspects from the consultancy world into that. I mean, love to hear for yourself around that a little bit as well.
I can start with that one. My entire career has been on the business side. So this was my first entree into being an in-house marketing, leading that comms team. at Ankara, but my entire career has been on the business side. So it's always struck me as interesting at how disparate the sales teams are from the marketing teams, that everybody is so sort of in their own lane. And like the last panelist was speaking about, the key is alignment. It's okay. It's okay. I'm bound to do it in a second too. But yeah, it's always struck me as so interesting how disparate those different arms can be and how important alignment is. And sales being, everybody's responsible for them. And I think that, for in consulting, I believe our people are our greatest asset. I certainly don't always think that someone necessarily hires you because of your brand or your name recognition, but it's because, I know that the person that leaves our office, the CFO practice, is the best at what he does. And I've known him. They're the ones that have built up years and decades of experience and network. So really having them at the forefront of that and enabling them to sell while also doing the same thing on our side has been pretty key for us. And the consulting side is really engaging our people, but everybody has a role in sales. It's just alignment constantly of getting everybody working together and that with that one goal.
I know that's something that's very important to yourself, Deb, isn't it? Making sure that alignment is key.
Well, I think it starts with the objective. So my marketing team has a revenue goal. And that's separate from my sales team. My sales team has a revenue goal that's basically cost of sales model, certain X% times their compensation. They have to deliver that revenue. But the marketing team also has a revenue goal through our traditional sector campaigns, client development, et cetera, because I think the way you get alignment is agreeing on the outcome and making the goal big enough that people are scared. Scared. Bad word, scared. And when I first introduced this idea a couple of years ago, they were like, what are you talking? And it was like $40 million a couple of years ago. It wasn't like marketing doesn't contribute that much in a firm of my size, but they were like, how are we possibly going to have this responsibility? And then now it's 200 million.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Very, very, very impressive. Yeah. And if we just start to take that into another layer, we'd really love to understand from you a bit of a quick snapshot of what sales and BD people within your firm are actually doing specifically with clients, and Shade, maybe from your side, because you haven't necessarily got the team doing it, how you are focusing in on what you're doing with clients.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'll just reiterate that we're pretty traditional in the way that we approach business development. I think the entire team is very, very good at responding quickly to a request that a partner has. I mean, I think just yesterday evening, I was about to go to bed, one of our directors emailed me and said, hey, we've got this meeting tomorrow. You happen to be connected on LinkedIn with one of the board directors here. Do you mind reaching out to him to find out what we can more about that? So the team is very good at pulling in insights from as many connections as we can, whether that's news sources or some of the proprietary financial databases, just whatever we can to build as much of a case as possible. LinkedIn, platforms like Passle that allow us to get a lot more insight into who's reading our content and what's effective with the content has helped a lot with that. But the way that we think about it, the way that the change that we are trying to drive, both through our own team and with the partners across the firm, is to think about this whole new intent-based model, which is really understanding at a much deeper level the people that you might be selling to that you don't yet know, like that dark funnel. How can you pinpoint exactly who those people are that want to know exactly about that particular practice strength or area of law that you should be reaching out to them? And that's where I think sales is going, and that's what we want to do. Today, that is a journey that we have to convince everybody across the firm to buy into and to trust the technology and do it, but that's where we want to go.
And on that technology element, is that something that you're finding coming from consultancy previously, so bring yourself into this as well, Crossley, is that you are probably more further ahead with that in terms of the understanding of what you're using around, as you said, having that behavioral intent technology, those sorts of things, and bringing that into a law firm, and you found there's been a resistance to change, or you found actually that's a really nice way to help drive that sales. And I'm sure, Deb, you start to consider it of combining a sales and BD team and technology and kind of what comes from that. Because I know you always joke that the two of you would like to combine teams and see where that leads, but...
Oh, that technology is really cool. I've tested it.
So Deb was one of the first people I met when I came into the world of legal marketing. I was lucky to meet her. And as we were talking about our own strengths of the team, things we wanted to beef up. The more I listened to Deb and having a team that really like lived and breathed sales, I was like, man, if I had that, I could combine it with the technology that we have, like we'd create the perfect.
Yeah.
So maybe Deb and I will go into business.
Maybe. Although I have the technology and it's really good.
Have you got any specific examples of where your sales and BD team are working closely with clients that you might be able to share with the audience?
A couple of examples, sure. I mean, I'm going to take one that is more traditional. So we did a fairly significant pitch for a fairly significant opportunity. We did not win, unfortunately, but the partner partnered with our BD person to understand the needs and uncover the other elements of what it would take to win. And we still lost, whatever. But the other thing that we were able to do with that is to bring the proposal manager and the BD person together to do the post-pitch debrief with the client without the client lead. And that's, those are the best ways. And so then that proposal manager, that was Britt, by the way, for those of you who know her, have since started doing that more routinely, even without a business development person, because they've gotten the confidence to do that. Or like I have a sector marketing advisor who's assigned to work in a sector that I have a BD person, and they both put on our major programs. They both split the responsibilities for content and contacts at these programs. They both know the people. They come back from the program and they do they're very good about using Salesforce for the pipeline and tracking activities and cultivating, between the two of them. They share they divide and conquer. It's really a partnership.
Really interesting. What about yourself, Crosley? Is there anything that you're doing at Ancura at the moment that's particularly sort of innovative when you think about the sales team and working with clients?
Yeah, I really think thought leadership has truly been a game changer for us in our industry. And I think that consulting firms used to just do it to check the box, but it's really evolved. The technology that we use is so diverse now and is so helpful. Similar, case study we had. One of my favorite ones to talk about is just the fact that we were, it was a lot just to get people to start engaging in thought leadership and doing that because, as you know, like the professionals have so many client demands. They're on one continent and they're on another time zone, and it just becomes very cumbersome. But thought leadership in the way that, especially how we've been able to use Passle, has made it it's removed a lot of barriers to entry for our professionals. So we had and we integrate very much so our thought leadership campaigns with every aspect of the marketing department, whether it be sales, BD, our events team uses it heavily to do a lot of thought leadership leading up to a certain event that our professionals are attending. I use it a lot. I do a lot of communications and getting that third-party validation in the media for our professionals. It all works hand in hand. But we had one of our groups, they were doing a lot of thought leadership, a campaign surrounding a specific issue. They had a client, a really large automotive company, reach out and say, okay, we want to, pursue you guys, trying to we want to hire you guys. We didn't end up winning the work. So, but to your point, I think that a lot of times you can just say, oh, we didn't win it, and then you could leave it at that, or you could actually get your hands dirty, get in there, and really figure out why. So we did that, and we kept them in our marketing funnel. We kept feeding them various pieces of content, used a lot of data to help out with that. While we didn't get hired for that original engagement, because we kept them in our funnel and we kept serving them the right content that resonated with them, they ended up hiring us plus some, and it ended up being a really large engagement, and it was spread out between multiple different practices when we were only doing it for just this one practice. So I really do think that, and I try to tell our professionals this, that look, when you are sitting on a plane and you're exhausted, if you could just write a quick piece and engage us, and if you have a marketing department that is very aligned with every other different sales function and marketing department within the greater whole, it really is going to give you such a big bang for your buck, and the power of you to be able to do that is very large.
Yeah, as soon as we kind of started to go down that route a little bit around the technology, Shade, I'd love to understand a little bit more around the behavioral intent technology that you're using, because I don't know about the room. Does anybody use behavioral intent in here at the moment? One person at the back. So you're obviously, if you're able to maybe share with people how you're using that and the benefits of it, I think it'd be quite an interesting topic.
Yeah, of course. So as far as I know, there are two main providers of this tool. We use Aptivio, and then there is Sixth Sense is the better known option for this. And I first learned about them. I was at Capgemini selling IT services to CIOs around the world. But a company like Capgemini is very similar to a law firm in the sense that they have different practice groups. And you're trying to get more practice groups engaged with your top client list. And so this tool was really effective. I mean, as I called it, illuminating the dark funnel. You know the universe of, in our case, it's the buyers of legal services, and you know the universe of the types of clients that you want to be marketing to, but you don't know who at that client is interested in that specific type of legal service at any given time. And so what this allows you to do is look within a company at different changes in online behavior, that they may be all of a sudden researching intellectual property law or financial restructuring. And when you see those spikes, it gives you hints as to what might be going on at the company. And if you pair that with other data that you're getting, and you could think about this in a number of different ways. You can use thought leadership content to market to the key decision makers there, and then you can see when they engage with it to go, aha, that's who's interested in that. Or if you need to move more quickly and you happen to know who is interested in who typically makes the decisions at that fund or that company in that area of law, you could actually have your lawyer pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, we just put out this client alert on this topic, and we would love to come in and talk to you about it. And they're going to go, that's interesting. We were just researching that. And so it's proven to be, well, let me say this. I got up at our partner retreat a year ago, and I showed this technology to all of the partners. I said, here's one of our top 5 clients. I can show you everything that they're interested in right now. Here are within our top 150 clients, the ones that are most interested in energy transition right now. And the reception in the room was really positive. I thought, all right, mission accomplished, I am done. But as all of you will know, it takes a long time to persuade a bunch of conservative, resistant to change lawyers that they can trust the technology. So this past year, I got up and I took it the next level down. And I said, here is a major asset manager client that we have. We can tell that they have been heavily researching this new SEC insider shadow trading regulation that just came out. I have asked the relationship partner to reach out to them and offer that we could come in and we could talk about this issue. They were interested. They immediately said, yes, we want 30 of our people to attend this meeting. And that allowed us to then target the other 5 clients that we have that we could tell were interested in that topic. And so it's like we have to do time after time after time of these same examples to persuade them that it actually works. And what I keep saying to them is, if your partner was in a meeting with the client and they happened to tell them that they were interested in this SEC insider trading rule, you would tap your partner on the shoulder and say, you should go talk to them, and you would believe them, you would do it. But suddenly, if you do it with technology, they're like, I don't know. It's kind of creepy. How are they going to react? So it's a long process, but it's really exciting. And I think to answer your question, this is still at the forefront of B2B marketing, both on all of professional services, but also for legal. And I think the ways that we are quickly adapting and using the tool is going to be the way that you sell legal services several years from now.
Well, see, I mean, sorry.
Can I just amplify something? So I didn't know about this technology until I met Shade, and then I decided, how can it possibly do what he's saying? And so I did a little proof of concept, one of our little practice groups. I didn't give client names. I just said, here's what I'm looking at. The research returned our top client, which the firm, the FTVO, did not know they were a client, and our top prospect. It was spot on. Just saying. It makes targeting so much easier.
That's really interesting. But I mean, in both examples, though, I mean, you talk about there's obviously a little bit of resistance to change within the firms, and sometimes I think sales is probably still seen as a bit of a dirty word within law firms. I mean, probably it's the case in some of your firms. How have you, if you managed to get your, those sales, those marketing, those BD folk to actually start to engage with the partners and, effectively navigate some of the pushback that there is? Is it through using data? Is it through winning business like you suggested there, Crossy? I mean, what have been the ways that you've been able to basically get people to start seeing sales as a good thing within the world of law?
I'll go first, because the sales folks, this is what they get paid for. And has anybody here actually been a professional or salesperson in some professions? Right, so a couple of you know this already. Personal selling is very high touch, very time consuming. And so the BD people provide leverage for the busy lawyers who bill in 6-minute increments and don't understand why they need to do a little bit more every day than what they're doing. And so they cultivate the relationships with the lawyers, they build the trust, they demonstrate the understanding. Half of them are recovering lawyers anyway, so they speak the language. And then they just do it person by person by person. And now what I have is, I need this group wants a salesperson just because they deliver the results. But it's person by person by person. And it's the reason I asked the question about the have you done selling is because it's the same thing we do every day of the week. The point that you were just making, Shay, that you have to keep influencing the lawyers one lawyer at a time to engage. And then when they see the results, then they want more than you can give them.
I agree with that so much, to the point where, I think that technology enables us to be very efficient, and we love that. But it's also that one-to-one massaging communication that is so important to do that too, because I attend when we do a sales training, when we're showing people how to utilize all these tools. Yes, I could record it and send it out via link, but I don't. And I'm not bragging on myself, but because of what you're saying, it's so important that I get on every single training with every person. Someone reaches out, oh, I heard that you guys can do X, Y, Z. I'd like to learn more. Great, let's do a call. And I just attend them, because you have to really, in order to drive that excitement, or people that are being reluctant, you really do have to put that upfront time to really talk to them about, like I always give a spiel when I engage someone, like, hey, I've been in your shoes. I used to be responsible for revenue generation. I led a group. Like, I was on the business side. I know what it's like to have 30 clients calling you a day and you're exhausted and you just want to go to bed. But if you could just do it this way, or if we just change it a little bit, and here's what I recommend about how to fit this into your schedule or how to think. It sounds kind of like duh, but spending that very intentional time talking to those people that may be a little bit resistant to that sales, or the thinking that sales is a dirty word or whatever, teaching them how to do it differently, and really spending that investment with them by getting on the phone or having that meeting one by one. And it really does work, because then they tell someone else, and then it spreads like a wildfire sometimes.
And you touched upon there that you came over from the business side, and then you're now sat within marketing, and you're leading the marketing function at Ancura. How did you, and it's a little bit feeding into the same question for you, Deb, is how did you actually get the marketing and the BD team to start seeing themselves as salespeople? And obviously, Deb, you set that up within Perkins Coie itself.
Yeah, I'm not sure they actually see themselves as that yet, but I'm working on it.
How are you working to get people to that? Because I know, Crossley, you found some resistance and change. How did you manage to do that? Because I'm sure for the individuals in this room, that's quite an important thing, is how can we all be seen as salespeople and be out there and actually driving that revenue?
I'm not really someone that sugarcoats things, so it doesn't make people feel good, but I just told them, this is what it is. You are, for the marketing department, it was it's business development, it's revenue, it's sales. That is it. That is our North Star. And one of the first things I did, I think I've mentioned this before, but I just told everybody, I'm like, all of our professionals at the firm, they are your client. So when we talk about them, we refer to them as clients. And, yes, we're not beneath, or everybody's equal, right? But it's just a matter of viewing that viewpoint a little bit differently. If we're not doing it this way, and if we're not always thinking about sales, revenue, creating value, helping our professionals to create value in what they're doing, then we're not doing our job. So I don't know if that's a great answer, but it's really just it's a very hey, let's all get on the same page as the declaration. This is exactly how we're going to be running the team. And if you're not thinking in that lens of revenue generation, even though you're not directly responsible for it, but you are, it's just, this is how it is. And you have to set that tone very early on.
One of the things I have been able to do, which I'm very grateful for my finance team. Okay, how do you guys do business planning, revenue planning every year? And are you, from a marketing perspective, involved in that revenue planning? If you aren't, you should be. So we do marketing planning, but I partner with finance when they do the revenue planning, because I realize that the way it had historically been done is rate increases, capacity increases, and this bogey that they had to figure out how to come up with that they invariably argued about and tried to cut. And I said to my marketing advisors, that's your job. That bogey, that revenue difference that they don't know where it's coming from, is coming from your marketing programs. So your marketing plans, they have to identify what you want to be known for, which sectors and clients you want to go after, which practices, what are you going to focus on to drive that revenue, and then build your list of programs based on that. Now, it's still somewhat of a shot in the dark. You don't know which program is going to deliver which results, although I could do a better job of building my middle funnel technology based on some of these things, do a better job of capturing some of these things. But really just start at the beginning during the planning session and partnering with finance to talk to the practice group chairs about where's the money coming from, because we're all here to make some money.
I know for a fact, both from conversations I've had with team members, but also on the engagement surveys that HR does, that our team is like exhausted. Like they're tired of all the change that I'm trying to drive through. And they feel like every month it's a new tool that Shade is pushing down on the team. And I'm selling them on your value in the market is going to be that much higher. Every firm is going to want to hire you because you understand this technology and you can drive this change if you want to take on a leadership role, but it's exhausting. And they feel both that their job description hasn't changed. I've just layered on more on top of it, number one. But number two, they're having to learn new technology. And then number three, it's scary to feel like if I'm responsible for driving demand and then demand goes down, am I out of a job? What does that mean for me? Does that mean I'm going to get a lower bonus or what? And so it's hard. I mean, it's a journey that all of our teams in this room are going to have to go through, and it's going to be incumbent upon us to be like a player coach and make them feel comfortable with that change.
Well, around that, I mean, there's a bit of a discussion point. We'd love to hear from each of you around it. Why do you think, if we look 20 years ago, sales didn't really exist, there's a little bit more within the firms. Why do you not think there are more sort of commonplace in terms of having sales teams around that marketing and driving the functions forward? I mean, is there a reason for that it's not happening? Is it to do with structures?
One of the reasons does have to do with professional standards. I did have to get a certain degree of permission when we developed we have a sales compensation program that is based on, like I said, a percentage, a multiple of the sales comp. And it's the revenue target. And we can't do fee sharing in legal. So they have to have other responsibilities as well that are measurable to kind of manage that. So part of it is the structure of the industry. And also that nobody can sell law because it's so special.
So where do you think it's going to go? Do you think that as we move forward in the future that there will be a change and that maybe that you can start splitting revenue and therefore you can bring in sales individuals, or how do you think it might look? Or do you think technology is going to be the future and that's going to help to assist everybody? It's going to be amalgamation of it all?
I mean, it's really competitive out there, and our clients are telling us, if you do client feedback, they tell you they want to hear more from the lawyers. The BD team can be leveraged. The lawyers like that. So I think it's just as they start to have to compete more strenuously and they see the skill set is there. And I have heard this in all three of the firms that I've worked in. I did not go to law school, or I would have gotten my MBA if I thought I was going to have to do sales. Right, so there's a resistance to it. So the ones that, when they see the light, they just glom onto it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I frequently hear from partners, they'll say, Shade, I own my brand. You don't own my brand, I own it. And I say, you're right, I'm just trying to teach you how to make more of your brand.
And what are they doing to elevate their brand in the market? Are they doing anything, or is it you having to come in there and say...
They're doing paper submissions.
Well, I mean, that's obviously very worthwhile.
Well, I guess going back to the original point that Deb was making. So in my prior role at Capgemini, there was an inside sales team, and they were compensated by the number of meetings that they generated for a true salesperson. And it happened to sit in marketing. It could sit in marketing or sales. And I would say a year ago, I thought that's maybe the direction that law firms would go. I'd say now, a year into trying to sell in this technology to the partners, I actually think it's going to be more of a technology-driven change to make partners, and especially the partners that are more business development oriented, better at sales, more informed sales. I don't see. I'm a little more skeptical that we would, at least in my current firm, we would build out a sales team.
Do you think having a sort of come background? Do you think having individuals within your team, like bringing them in and from outside of either the industry, so you've got a very fantastic right-hand person, Rachel, who has come with you from Capgemini. She really understands technology and implementing it and driving sales. And I don't know whether you brought people in from outside of the industry, Deb, and obviously Crossy within sort of consultancy. I'm sure there are people coming from various different places. But do you think that's the key to being able to make it a success, and then they can start to infiltrate throughout the rest of the team and help drive it forward?
Well, absolutely. So if you think about the way that our teams are organized, I mean, the marketing and marketing technology and revenue technology side of the house, there's plenty of room to bring in people from outside the industry. I think once you get closer to actually communicating with clients, engaging with them, creating the pitch decks that are going to resonate with them, you've got to be steeped in the client industry. So I'm big on all of us hiring a bunch of data scientists, revenue technology specialists that can come in and pull these insights that are going to drive business development. I'm not as big of a believer that you could hire like great salespeople to drive business development. But I don't know. I mean, I think Deb has shown that you can do it successfully.
And everybody wants more. I mean, we do hire, a lot of the salespeople that we hire have JDs, so they get that kind of credibility, even if they haven't practiced law. We hire, because we can't hire from legal, there's only a handful of folks that do it. So we hire industry adjacent or industry related. So out of technology, large technology, or, if about to make an offer to somebody who comes out of financial printing, which there's a surprising overlay in the network. So you hire for the Rolodex that these people have, and there's a surprising overlay in the network among financial printers and corporate and securities attorneys. Like they know all the same people. So, you have to be smart about where they're going, which territory they're going in, and who they know.
I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all, honestly, for that question. I think it really does depend on the type of firm that you're running. I think it depends on the type of industry that you're in, what your clients are wanting. And I'm a big believer in, while I would love to be able to condition everybody, and I have this delusional view that I can from top down. I mean, I talk constantly to junior professionals, like, start now, like go funnel up to the top. I talk to our senior people, but I really do think one thing that has made us more efficient is you really do have to identify, or at least I have in the marketing comms department, is who are your top, like there are people that sit in every one of our firms that are just business development mavens. They're salespeople, they bring in millions, they just have that ability to go in there and really holistically understand a problem, deliver the solution in a way that's so engaging to the client, where they're like, I want that guy in the room, I want that woman in the room, like that's who I want, in my corner. Figure out who those, or at least I have, like figure out who those top people are, and really like drive the attention and like put them out there and let them go, like let them run, let them do what they do. Trying to, I guess my point is that yes, you should always be driving these messages home to all different types of people. And it's really, yes, you should spend the time on getting the people that are who view data as the dark arts. Like they're just like, what is this? This is scary. But yeah, it's important to do that. But really honing in on your best players on the bench too, and putting them out there, and then allowing a lot of other partners or professionals to like get in with them and look at them and how they do BD is really what I think is important. And I think the more that you can push the branding to the business development resistant folks that are like, I'm a lawyer, I don't want to do this, or I'm this, and it's not what I went to school for. If you can push that branding for them and really encourage them to say like, look, take the sales out of it. People just really want to know what you have to say on this issue. Like, let's just get you out there. I've got a lot of professionals that are, at Acura that they started out with thought leadership, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking on all these different panels. I have engagements. I was mentioned in Forbes recently because of this. Like truly, like journalists are really wanting to know what the subject matter experts have to say on this, and you get that third-party validation. So if you can sort of figure out who your top BD people are, really help them and get them out there and let them run, get people to sort of buy into how their approach and strategy is. And then if you can kind of take the ones that are maybe in the middle and encourage them to do sales by just branding themselves through thought leadership and things like that, you can kind of come on and accent all the data and just say, hey, we'll take care of the data stuff. You just kind of get out there and get your content out there.
Shade, you mentioned it as well. It was interesting you talking about it there, Crossy, around the branding of the individual as a consultant. And Shade, you mentioned there that like resistance from the partner earlier, going, it's about my own brand. How within like the law firm environment are you helping to assist them to elevate their brand? Because it comes hand in hand with that sort of sales element of getting them out there, getting in front of the right people. But as we probably all know in the room, it doesn't naturally come to partners. They might like to think that they're good with people skills and getting out there and promoting themselves, but they're not necessarily, other than a handful of individuals, as each of you mentioned, can really do that. So how are you kind of helping to raise it? Is it that it's technology is the way that's going to do it, or are you able to coach?
Well, I still believe, just as Crossley said, like even though we're in the legal space, they sell through thought leadership. And the only difference is that most lawyers think thought leadership today is either like paying to speak at a conference or putting out a client alert. And so the opportunity for us is, how do you take that same content that they keep creating and do something different with it? Some of the answer is like Gen AI. We use Writer, and you could take a client alert and you can say, listen, I want to create 3 different social media posts, and you can get the entire practice group much more engaged in promoting a client alert through social media. But it's also in, you could create blog posts, you can create really nicely packaged, designed thought leadership pieces that don't have to take a whole lot of work, because you're just repackaging what the lawyers have already done. And think about building a brand in that way. And we push really heavily, I think everybody does, but LinkedIn, we really push and train our lawyers to use LinkedIn in a more effective way. And like, there's a lot of lawyers that still think that, you've got to do a video, and it's got to be this long video. And really, if you just put a really well-crafted LinkedIn post that says, here's 3 key points that you should know about this latest regulation or this latest ruling, you have way more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I think it was Megan Shamman, who's the CMO at Fenwick and West, shared recently that I think she was saying that 61% of GCs and legal buyers are getting their content through LinkedIn. So if you're not actually on there, then it's a really wonderful place to be.
But I think there's one other way, and I will keep coming back to this. I agree, thought leadership branding, it's critically important. They have to know who you are so they can find you, right? But from a selling perspective, it's still a very high touch engagement. And so events around a topic, and some of our best marketing advisors or business development directors, they are bag carriers for the rainmakers. Partner with them in the journey on the food litigation roundtable, where you'll do a seminar in 4 different markets. And what their job is to facilitate the conversation, to bring together the right contacts that are clients and prospects on whatever the topic is, and to make sure that conversation happens, and then also to make sure the follow-ups happen. And they've been very effective at getting followers, at getting people to go to this year over year, and they enjoy the camaraderie, but they really particularly enjoy whatever the hot topic is that, lawyers are good at having conversations, but business development professionals are better at listening to what they're talking about and making the connections. And so they come as much for the conversations with Sky and Jen, the business development people, as for the lawyers.
How are the lawyers receptive to having someone come along and essentially, say, carry their bags with them and be in the room leading that conversation?
Some of our biggest rainmakers are the highest users of our business development folks, because it gives them more money. We have one client that just cracked $100 million. It went from $3.5 million 10 years ago to $100 million, because the lead partner partnered with the BD person, just set her loose in the client, right? So they see the success. You do these events, like I said, the roundtables or whatever, bring people together, build those relationships, so that the lawyer doesn't have to spend the same time doing that. And you guys know how legal departments are. A lot of our clients have legal departments that have a lot of people. You cannot know everybody. Our partners can't get out and talk to everybody they need to, but the business development people can go and have a coffee, or I was thinking about you, this might be of interest, and just kind of make do the skunk work that has to be done.
And was that growth from 30 million to over 100 million because of 3.5? Was that because of cross-selling within the firm? Yes. So those BD individuals,
yes, different portfolios coming on. Sure. Every year she would target something new. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And we touched on it quite a bit already, but before we open it up to the floor, I know that we're cracking on with time. Are there any particular technologies that you're using outside of the ones that you've mentioned so far that you think people should be aware of that are really useful when it comes to selling and building the team?
How many people have Salesforce? How many people have opportunities turned on in Salesforce? It's the most important tool, because you can track. You have to track. You have to nurture and pay attention to your. I like to know which ones are going to close and when, and how much money.
And what revenues booked against that?
Yeah.
Anything from either of you that you think's?
I would say, I mean, we have our own AI platform that our company developed, but any AI tools have been just like extremely, extremely important for us, especially like we're very, we do use various technologies, but I double down on the thought leadership aspect because we really do have really found that our professionals are really the ones that have those big networks. And so anything that, you know, we can do to help them in terms of utilizing AI to help them make them more efficient. To your point, like I tell people all the time, like you don't need to write a 20-page dissertation on an issue anymore. Clip a Wall Street Journal article, throw it in Passle, do your 3 quick takeaways, use AI to help you like create a very punchy sentence. We're going to follow it anyways, and we're going to package it up for you and advertise it to the right people if you just give us that, like that starting piece. So I would say AI has been a game changer for us.
It's also a game changer for preparing for meetings.
Yes.
You can get pretty decent current information about competitors, how clients make money, what their issues are, what their, you know, do they have a 10K, what are their legal risks, in like 10 minutes of prep versus the 24-hour turnaround from the library.
Just one quick point. I was at a conference last week, and the speaker was, she led a fund that invests in AI companies. And so the point she was making is that we've all rushed out, us, not her, rushed out and we've bought these applications, these Gen AI applications like Writer. We've all bought Writer, and it works great. I'm a big proponent of it. She was like, but 2 years from now, those are all going to flame out because it's all going to be like the existing big box solutions, like, you know, Microsoft Copilot, things like that. They're just going to build in all of the Gen AI tools that you need in one setting, which really stuck with me. I mean, it's like we all need to get very comfortable very quickly with how to use Gen AI, and the content development uses of it are obvious, but I think it's going to really change things. I think Deb's answer is the right one, the Salesforce. We're moving as quickly as we can to implement Salesforce, but I mean, I think AI is really, really exciting on the business development side.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I was talking with Monica and Joe this morning about it, and you know, one of the things that really came out of that was how important it is still to have that human intelligence, because without that human intelligence, you're not actually able to really elevate it and be strategic around that use of the AI. Sorry, were you about to jump in to say something? No.
Oh, no.
Just very conscious of the time. Have we got any questions from the room? Nicole? Was that?
Go ahead, Nicole. You're allowed to talk.
All
sitting
points to
behind
bring
you is
in.
Oh, okay. Hi. Do you know me? Great conversation. I mean, that was terrific, really insightful, and I've learned a lot from the three of you listening in. I think one of the questions, it might be Deb or a few of you, but when you talk about business development managers and your sales force, do they see themselves as selling, the BD people? Because that is selling. You know, for me, because that is land and expand, and that's so powerful.
The ones who are actually business developers who have the territories and the quotas, they 100%. The ones who are in marketing, and I don't call them business development managers because we have business development directors. I just call them marketing advisors. And I'm good with that because marketing exists to enable sales, because you're connecting something to exchange value, which is selling. They are starting, some of them are further along on the journey than others, but they are starting to see themselves as, you know, Jen talks about revenue enablers.
Yeah. And the second question was, and it might be for any of you, about when you have people out selling beside your partnership, how are they reacting to it? Are they energized? Are they energized by watching the salespeople beside them, or are they retracting and saying that's your job?
The partners, the lawyers, they love partnering with them. They love partnering with them.
So you're getting, and do you see any transference in skill?
Some transference in skill. Actually, what I do see a little bit of is the partners being lazy because that person's so good at that.
That's
so
what
I
I
can
was
focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But also, you know, like one of the most basic things of selling is targeting, is prospecting, is segmenting your client list. And so they'll sit down with lawyers who maybe they're not going out with, and they'll help them think about how do I segment my clients and prospects to the highest and most likely versus the ones I have to cultivate over time or something. So like they transfer some of the thinking. Yeah.
Cool. I'd say I would add one thing too. Like a lot of our professionals, they either are high up in the business, they're earlier in career, or they're like leading business groups, and they have been very excited to partner with us, as you said. But they'll just say, "Hey, I've got all this stuff, and I know that I've got something, and I don't really know what to do with it." And but I think the only reason that we have that, we get so many calls a day of people that are just like, it's not a divide, it's not a wall. They just come to say to us, like, looking at us as the advisor. But I don't think that we would have had that, and that wasn't the case years ago, because we really, as a marketing department, decided that we were going to just really get intrinsically into their business. I am a very big proponent of, for everybody on the marketing team, do not go into our professionals and their business and what they're doing and assume that you know anything about that business. Like, you literally go in and you need to learn everything that you can about what they're doing. And I think that when they feel like, oh, our marketing department really trusts, or they really understand what we're doing, because our businesses, we have so many different business groups. They're all their own companies, like they have different things that they do. They have different client base. They have different, demographics of so polar opposite. But when someone really gets in there and says, I just want to learn what you're doing, I want to take that time, it builds that trust so that they do come back to you and say, hey, this is what I got, y'all. You're my trusted advisor on promoting all of it.
Any other questions in the room that people have, or points they want to add? No? Oh, yes, please.
I'm curious how you actually measure the revenue goals.
So you've got revenue goals for your marketing team. So what is the method that you actually use to track that and determine?
So we track everything in Salesforce, right? Some of it is we did, and many of us have done the predictive analytics work to see what are the markers of growers. I did that a few years ago, and I have a really good set of prospective grower clients. And then we divided them by industry, and we did a little bit of math, and we do our targeting around those clients and see what the results are based on Salesforce. The other thing I will say, the reason why I asked if anybody has opportunities turned on, is they have to use the sales pipeline. We have a 4-stage sales pipeline, and we can see where they are. And we have some scoring behind the scenes that the salespeople do it directly, but we have some scoring that around engagement that shows them how they move through the pipeline. Yeah. So it's a little art, a little bit of science, and then we see what the results are.
Lovely. Well, we're going over time, so sorry, please.
The rest of that, what pattern be? So where are they aware they were really
Yes, and that's a great question, because I fight the tension internally with my COO around, well, that should be deducted from the partner's credit because they're getting credit for it, but they don't have to. It's too hard. I mean, then what else? You're going to deduct my cost also? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, great question.
get the part and not like what?
No, they don't talk. That's my goal for this year is pipeline and opportunity management. They're starting to. We can do that more through the campaigns and making that more transparent. I'm lucky that there was a sales team in place when I got there, and it's we've been able to grow it. We've been able to focus it and grow it. It's kind of all over the place. Yeah, they absolutely get on board for that. Yeah.
Lovely. The final point to make, and to leave everybody with something hopefully useful from the conversation, is that one takeaway. And I'd love to hear from each of you, just like one takeaway that if you're going to go out and start implementing more around sales, be it next week, the next month, the next year, I'm sure you've each garnered something from the conversation, but would love to finish on just like one useful tip, trick, point, please.
Oh, just one.
Oh, it could be multiple, but we are 2 minutes over time, and therefore I'm going to get kicked off by James in a minute.
Sales is not a dirty word. It's why we're here.
Agreed. That was kind of mine. I mean, I swear. No, I think that it's just really encouraging people that, we're all part of a firm or a consulting firm. We're all doing stuff, and people are coming to us because they need they need our services. Like, it's not something that I wish we could rebrand the word sales or pick something else, but I think that you put it in your definition, but it's in our tagline of like creating value. You're really just figuring out like there's and not only it's the word value. I've heard that a lot here today, and I think it's super important that whether you're encouraging your own marketing departments about how to have a sales, viewpoint on things. All you have to say is like, look, you're creating value to the rest of the firm by helping them, enable them to do something. Or if your BD team is going out there and they're hesitant to be selly or whatever, it's saying, no, like that company, you are protecting their value, you're helping them create value, you are bringing value to them. If you can kind of always funnel everything back into that word, no matter what you're doing, I think that that's kind of the winner. Yeah.
I think every partner says, I want my business development team to be more proactive. And every business development lead says, I want to be more strategic and I don't want to be thought of as a concierge service. And I just believe whether you're coming at it from Deb's angle of hiring much better salespeople, or you're coming at it from the angle of bringing in technology that puts them in a better position to advise their partners, that's sales. I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to create a culture of sales. And maybe the trick is to not call it sales, but you're trying to be proactive and strategic.
Yeah. Everyone's certainly in the day in terms of the conversations that you're having, and I think that's what's so important, that everybody within the firm recognises all towards the bigger goal, which is ultimately the bottom line of the revenue. Anyway, we could keep talking about this for hours. I find it a fascinating topic. Thank you so much to the panellists, and a big round of applause.
Thank you.